Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Clark's Bar here in Patrick Street in Mullingar for episode 13 of the Iarmhi TV Club podcast. Tonight, special guest of honour in here with me, but we have Jason Keelan back again from the Loaf of Bread podcast. Jason is also PRO of the Camogie board. So tonight, we're looking forward to the Camogie finals coming up this weekend. I'm joined on my right hand side by Dinah Loughlin, former Clonkill and Westmeath player, and on my left hand side, probably one of the best known and most recognisable Camogie players of the last number of years, and I don't think I'm doing anyone any injustice by saying that. That's Pamela Grevillie from Iarmhi. Girls, you're very welcome. Last week our numbers went up because we improved the quality of our guests, so we're hoping for something similar tonight here now. We're diversifying, I think is the way we'll put it. Jason, before we go into just talking about the Camogie, just a quick word on. Obviously, Iarmhi caused a lot of problems to the LGFA fixtures at the weekend. I think there was only one of the finals played. Have you any more information on what's happening yet on the refixtures or anything?
No, there's nothing really that's come to light. Two of the finals actually got played in the end. Senior B got played in the Bridge. The Bridge beat Keelan in what turned out to be a low scoring but cracking game. Two of the finest goalkeeping performances I've ever seen in ladies football, Ciara Kelly and Laura Doyle. I was asked to pick the player of the match. It was a toss-up between the two of them, so Ciara came out on top. Peter Schmeichel-esque saves, I would say, from a keeper of her youth as well, which was phenomenal. And then Milltown Pass beat Terrell's Pass in the kind of grudge game.
In another huge high-scoring match as well.
It was, it was physical, and as I said in the paper report, if there wasn't a crowd there, I don't know what people would have done. There was a massive crowd at it, but the score finished 1-4 to 1-1, and in the 63rd minute it was 1-4 to a point, and only Joanna got the goal at the end to make a bit of drama. Milltown Pass knew how to stop Chloe Ganood, knew how to stop Joanna, knew how to stop Rachel Murphy in the middle, and their system worked, and Brian Wright got the tactics correct. So
credit to them. Yeah. Anyway, and no word yet on the big game, the senior game or the intermediate game, when they're going to be refixed?
No, I've heard nothing, of course, with the Camogie this weekend. It's hard to know when they'll fit it in. Obviously, you can't play in a certain number of games in succession in a few days. The junior had to go ahead because Milltown Pass, they'll play Raheny next Sunday now. So
and there's nothing yet, obviously, on the intermediate. Okay, fair enough. Look, we'll park the LGFA fixture. So, and we're going to look forward to the big weekend of the Camogie. I'll come to the two girls in a while. Jason, I just want to talk to you about some of the fixtures. First one I think up is on Thursday evening, Senior B. It's the first game of this week, St Mullins and Drumraney. Yeah,
should be a very interesting game. Drumraney, almost I suppose could have been maybe in the Senior A at a certain point, maybe for a little bit longer. Didn't quite have the experience, I suppose, to get past the big two over Iarmhi and Clonkill. Some quality players though, some great dual players as well. Erin O'Foylon, been one of the brightest young stars. I think we'll hear a lot about her in the future as well. She was at the minor photo shoot that we had earlier on for the minor finals next week. Marie Moran, Chloe Butler, Emily Craven, Drumraney are packed with talent in attack. And then Munners, who are technically my club, I suppose, and Dinah has also experience with Munners in the past as well. They have had a tricky season before it even started, with management issues and everything as well. But Katie Heffernan has come back from retirement from being an Irish international rugby player, chipped in with plenty of scores. Sheila McGrath still there. The Rehills, Abby in particular, been their sort of free taker. And then Sandra McGrath, we talked about in the football last week, one of Lomond's finest footballers, also one of the best Camogie players Munna possess as well. Will be a cracking game, very hard one to call. A lot of people will obviously look at Munners historically. Drumraney are an up and coming side, and Cyril Crosby has them going pretty well.
Girls, St Munners, I know very little about Camogie, don't follow it really, would have covered some games down the years or whatever. St Munners are the top dogs, or have been, am I right, in Camogie down the years for Westmeath?
They would have been. Munners, going back, would have won 13 in a row. I was on, I think I had 6 to 7 of those at the time, but yeah, they'd be a stronghold in Westmeath Camogie, definitely.
Pamela, you obviously clashed with Dinah and clashed with some of the finals. Raharney this weekend going for 11 in a row, so
11 in
be
a row.
hoping to get to the record. But
Try and catch them, yeah. That'll be.
But that Munas team would have been filled with a lot of quality players down through the years.
Yeah, for sure. And then even, I think Jason mentioned Sheila McGrath there, she's just a class act. There's a lot of people around her as well, but she definitely stands out along with her two sisters. I think Shauna's playing as well. So I think they won the Junior All-Ireland last year. They won
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So they have it there. They're still working hard. Fair play to them for not letting it fall. And even to be in a Senior B, I think it's fantastic for them to be competing in a final.
Jason, just on the structure of the championship, two groups with top two of each group qualifying for the semi-finals, am I right? Who was beaten in the semi-finals of it?
Trying to Munas had Castle Pollard, which...
No, and even Senior A now, who were the 4 teams that qualified
Senior A,
for?
so Raharney in their semi-final were up against Castletown Gagan, and that was actually a big one because Castletown ran them really, really close. And but for maybe a couple of bad bit of shooting here and there, Castletown could have pulled off the surprise of the century, really. And then for Clonkill, that was a very different kind of game against Loughlin Gales. That was feisty, to say the least. Right. There was a lot of niggle in that game, a lot of family feuds, as one of the players put it to me.
I'm surprised to hear that. You know?
Yeah, I know.
Near neighbours like that. And shocking. Else. No, I'm very surprised to hear about that. And what? When you don't make the top 4, you go. Did the two beaten semi-finalists drop back into Senior B, or is it the Senior B just those 4?
No, Senior B is just your other ones. Now it's the last one of it. The Matrix Cup, as Pamela and Dinah know it, is gone after this year. Yeah. So we've a new structure next year. We're going to kind of streamline with the other codes where we'll have a senior, an intermediate and a junior. And so we've regraded that based on how the results from this year came about. So teams who finish in the knockouts of the Senior A, which will be the 4, and then plus the Junior A winner, which will either be Brownstown or Cullion. Hope we've got that right. I'm probably mixing it up. But right. And then we'll have an intermediate grade of the kind of Senior B teams, and then the Junior grade will be in there as well. So it's all changed next year, and it's great. It'll make things a lot sort of easier to deal with fixtures wise, and making programs and graphics will be a lot easier for me.
Look, the Senior B is the first one on. I think that's on Thursday evening. In Kinnegad at 7:30 for anyone anyone interested in going to that one. Going back then on Saturday, then you have the Junior B game. Now I know you're not overly sure whether this game is going to go, but right now we have Clonkill and Southern Gales fixed for a final in that.
Yeah, as I said, it's sort of at the moment we're just waiting for confirmation on a couple of things, but assuming that it is going ahead, Clonkill's second team, who are insanely strong for a second team as well, will be taking on the Southern Gales, who are better known these days as the Spice Gales, as they prefer to be known. They are the rising stars, I suppose, of Westmeath Camogie. They've won awards in the past couple of years for their endeavours and for the positivity they bring to Camogie and Westmeath, but sort of on a more serious note, they're now competing at every age grade right up to senior standard, which is big for a club in Athlone.
Looking at that, then you've mentioned Drumraney already, which is obviously down the south end, and Southern Gales. You're now getting two Camogie clubs from down there, that area. Then what? Back up towards Castletown Gagan, St Bridges, next door. But like, obviously there would have been a long. I know Drumraney would have had teams before. Did it die out there for a while, and then, both of them coming back, both Southern Gales now resurrected, and Drumraney.
Yeah, and Donnie, myself and Dinah were chatting about there. Like, I love my history and stuff. Like, there used to be a Moat, Camogie, Tubberclare, Colliery, all used to have Camogie teams. Colliery as well. All disappeared and kind of
all before your time.
They're all now Drumraney and Southern Gales basically. So that's where it is at that site.
Okay. That one is on Saturday at 3:30.
Yeah.
Jason, where's that one fixed? In Shandona.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on then, Junior A, Brownstown and Cullion. That's on Saturday in TG Cusie Park.
Yep, that's right.
12
o'clock. Yep.
That's on, so before the football game starts.
Yep,
so
that's right.
Get in there good and early. Now, these are sole teams.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Brownstown and Cullion. Cullion, am I right in saying, would be yo-yoing a little bit from
Yeah.
Senior to junior or whatever?
Yeah, a couple of years of maybe changing the guard a little bit on and off the pitch. But this year have been pretty impressive. They have a couple of suppose stalwart players who are still there, a couple of dual players as well, but then they're bringing through plenty of youth as well. The likes of Alice Dilo and them and their Chloe Dolphin who's come through as well. There's a lot of plenty of potential in that squad as well. But Brownstown have what would you call it, the ace in the pack in Louise Horgan. Louise O'Connor, as we would know her, I suppose, some years ago. She is just lethal. The girls probably know a little bit more, but
You're both
yeah, she is just
she's familiar with them.
She is phenomenal, and then she's backed up by like Alana Gwerk, who will be a new name on the scene maybe to a lot of people. Free taker, workhorse, engine, just has a bit of everything, and it complements Louise as well. So the girls, I'd say, would know a lot more about Louise now than I would. But
she's just hugely talented. She always was. She just came naturally to her.
And Jason, the winner of that junior A will go proper senior A next year then, is that it?
Yeah, I'm hoping I'm mixing all this up now.
Yeah,
There's a lot going on in my head from commentary and stuff.
Anything that's going on, you can sue Jason.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the TV podcast. Yeah, that's fair enough. Down on Saturday, Cullion, just going back to them for a second, would have been a strong power in Camogie a good while ago. Am I right in saying that? I think there's a time. I might be wrong, but I think one of my sisters has Camogie.
They would have contested up to senior semi-finals all down through the years when we were playing.
I think we beat them in the first final we won was Cullion, unfortunately. It was a really tight game. So we would have played the whole way up against them,
Right.
They were definitely their semi-final stage.
So again, hoping to get back up to it again.
Yeah.
You know, many of them. Who would you fancy now? Would you fancy Brownstown with the power, scoring power of?
I was involved with Plunkets this year actually. My daughter plays with them, and I experienced Southern Gales and Brownstown, and I have to say both. It was just the setup they had, the passion between both. So going on, I haven't seen Cullion, but going on what I've seen on Brownstown, Brownstown could tip it.
Dinah, do you follow many of the matches now? I know you're living out of the area.
I'm a bit out of the loop, but no, I have to say I wouldn't be following the junior championship much, but I do follow Jason online, so I would be keeping in touch with the scores and stuff like that, and I would know Louise from playing with her down through the years and a couple of the Cullion girls. So just going on Louise, I'd probably just tip them that little bit.
That's all right. Well, look, at the big one then is on Saturday in TG Cusick Park, live on Iarmhi TV, Iarmhi and Clonkill. Pamela, you're going for 11 in a row, and I think, is it only one in between that prevented you going for 15 or 16 in a row? Is that right? Is that what we're saying? Yeah.
I think the Gales stopped us from going for 5 in a row, and we booked one. So I finished on 6 in a row. That's what I finished on. So.
How many medals have you?
I'm just going to rub it in now.
No, just a random question. 12. Dinah, how many have you got?
I've no senior championship medals with Clonkill, but I do with St Muna's when I played with them. I think with St Muna's I had 6, possibly 7, and I have a couple of junior championships with Clonkill, but still that elusive senior medal, never got it. We might get it this weekend.
I've none.
So there's a total of 12 medals, 12 county medals at this table right now. Me and Jason know them.
Yeah,
that's fair enough. Not that we'd want to Camogie one anyway, Jason. But go back to the semi-finals. Iarmhi and Castown ran close. Pamela, closest has been for a few years in the knockout game.
Yeah, Castown definitely brought it. They brought strength, and they really, I think it was 6 points in it in the end, which for Castletown, huge admiration for them. Like a couple of years ago, they weren't even getting to semi-final stage. And to show up that day like that and put Iarmhi to the pin of their collar, fair play to them. It was a successful year, and I think hopefully it'll stand to Iarmhi to have that physicality and toughness in the semi-final going into Saturday. Yeah, because going into finals with no real coming in against Clonkill, who are always dangerous. Clonkill in the semi-final, Dinah against Loughlin.
Played Loughlin Gales in the semi-final. Yeah,
feisty affair.
It was feisty from start to finish.
That's what you want.
Yeah, but it did. It just brought that little bit extra to the match. Both sides wanted it. You know what I mean? Right from the minute the ball was thrown in. But Clonkill just seemed to have that little bit extra. I think Megan Dowdall being back as well was a huge advantage to us. She had that bit of strength up front and scoring. And Loughlin Gales, all credit due to them, like they were phenomenal on the day, but Clonkill just got over the line, thankfully.
Yeah. So Camogie in general, Club Camogie, Jason's in a strong position at the minute then. Plenty of clubs putting in big efforts and making progress.
Yeah, and I know Pam has mentioned Castown-Gagan as well. They've kind of been the success story for me, looking from the kind of outside.
Players, Shannon Dalton and McCormack's back as well.
The youth as well.
Yeah, but they've that mixture.
Yeah, they're not even that, I suppose, just the fact that they now field at senior and junior level.
Yeah.
And you've got Mick Stones, of course, who's putting great money into the club as well with the stand and everything, and the facilities do help. It does encourage players to come along when you've got that lovely setup around you. And they're, as Pam said as well, 6 points against Raharney in the semi-final. When just looking at the stats, like Raharney's lowest victory was 2-15 to 4 points in the group. They put 8-16, 5-17, 6-7 and conceded 1-2 points in games. So to go from that to suddenly being a couple of pucks of the ball away, a couple of wides for Castletown for being under serious pressure. Pam said it'll probably stand to them. Clonkill, Megan really was needed against the Gales. If she wasn't there, it would be a different final. And that's nothing against the rest of the girls, it's just that the Gales were really, really up for it.
Really physical game as well.
When Clonkill went down to 14 then as well, the keeper sent off. So that certainly made a game of it, and only Megan's 4 points maybe towards the end of the game swung it. Otherwise, that game could have gone either way. It could be a different final we're talking about.
Stars for next Saturday, Pamela from Raharney, who can we look out for? Especially if you're tuning in maybe as a neutral watching Camogie,
I think while Raharney have a lot, there's probably one I suppose that stands out for. I think it's her first year senior, and she's scored I think 627. Roisin Connaughton. So I think, and that's all thanks to Jason's information. But for your first year in senior,
it's outstanding.
Outstanding. So I reckon that Roisin is definitely one to watch. We have a few of our stalwarts there. We're missing a few. We got a few big hits this year with Fiona Levy. She's expecting. Mary Gertie, really inspiring cornerback. She's injured. Then you have Aoife Doherty, who's kind of with an injury this year as well, on and off. So you have a few gone, but that gives opportunity for other people to shine. So you asked which one? I'd say Roisin Connaughton's the one to watch. Yeah.
Dinah, Clonkill. Obviously, the name that's going to jump out, I'm sure, is Megan Dowdall.
Oh, of course, and Megan's a huge advantage to have back, but like that, she can only do so much. It's all the girls around her as well, and we're missing a couple this year as well. We have Lucy Power gone, Holly Dowdall is out injured as well. But you have the likes of the Coogan girls, they're coming out on the back for win, just come by this weekend with Milltown Pass, so they'll be hungry for more this weekend. You have Christabella, Niamh Keogh. My own niece, I better not forget about her, Rebecca Dunn. They have huge scoring power up front. If it just clicks for them on the day, I think.
That might be where their problem is. Is that Raharney have scored almost double what Clonkill have scored this year.
Oh yeah,
and
easily.
If you took out Megan's 1-9, Megan is their second highest scorer after playing one game. And their top scorer, Ella
Murphy,
is in goals now because she is the replacement keeper.
Ellen Tate last weekend was sent off.
Right.
Okay.
So it's not ideal for Clonkill in some ways, the way they are. I just looked through their scores here. They're all, Ella has 2-8, Megan has 1-9, Megan's is in one game. After that it's Niamh 1-4, Becca 1-3. Roisin has 6-27.
Yeah.
Amelia has 2-17. Quiva McAteer is another phenomenal young player who I knew nothing about. And she's burst onto the scene with 5-5, and this is majorities from play as well. They are lethal going forward, and as strong as that Clonkill defence is, particularly with Ellen Flanagan, who we saw playing for Milltown Pass on Sunday, she is a warrior. But it's going to need a lot more than that to keep Raharney at bay. They're far too superior in the attack, so it's up to Clonkill to try and stop them and find scores as well.
If they can just click on the day, I think they might be able to just get across the line.
and hoping for an off day from Hurling.
Absolutely.
Which obviously,
Something along the way.
You know, balance out.
Clonkill have been trying for the last couple of years. They've got to how many finals? I think
the same final, I think, since 2018.
Yeah, and they're just
every
year trying to get across the line.
The other side of that Clonkill team, even though it's very young, they're very young. They've massive experience. This could be the final that clicks for them.
Yeah, like if the likes of Aisling Egerton, she's there how long?
Huge experience.
Megan,
They really
do you know
have.
what I mean? Ellen Tate, I know she'll be on the sideline on Saturday, but you have that mix of youth and experience as well. So, touch wood. No offence, Pam.
Makes for a great game.
But it does. But that's what you want. Like
Yeah.
at this stage with the Camogie,
Yeah.
you want a battle going into a county final.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You don't want a one-sided match. I don't think.
You say last year's one, it came down to a score.
Yeah.
When it looked like, for all the world going into it, Harney were going to murder them.
Yeah.
And it came down to a goal in the end.
In the end,
You know,
Final day is a different
anything can happen.
Yeah.
You just you don't know.
a bit of rain, a bit of storm Amy again. You wouldn't.
I know, we don't want that. We want a cracking dry day, cracking match, high scoring, and somebody to come out just by heartbreak.
Clonkill win, skin of their teeth.
Win. Yeah. Pamela, I'm sure you'll have plenty to say about that this week. Just going on from that, and going your time with the county, I know your brother Johnny had great success with Westmeath Camogie, but I see we have a new Camogie manager appointed for 2026.
Yeah.
Yep, Barry is.
Barry O'Mara.
Barry's jumping in, yeah. Sure, why not? He's, married, new baby. He's
Nothing to be at.
nothing to be at, yeah.
That sounds like a man who wants to get out of the house to me. Now,
We'll have a chat with Julie and see what she says. But yeah, he's obviously player manager with the Wood.
Yeah.
Playing up on Brosna as well in the junior. They were lucky the last day out in Killucan. And now he's stepped up, but
He's kind of in a management role for a while, isn't he?
Yeah, he's always been kind of. You always got the sense often that, particularly when he was in the back room with Paul at Connaughton last year, you always kind of felt that he could make the step up, and it kind of came.
More.
Yeah, it came as no surprise to me when his name was sent to me as the new manager, to announce. So I'm delighted for him. He's a lovely guy, very, very passionate. Obviously, been in the Wood, kind of around all those clubs. He knows players fairly well, and you girls probably know a bit more about the Wood and stuff as well. But he seems to have made good links with players already, which is what's needed. And he'll probably bring young players through as well, which he seems to be noted for as well.
One way, what are the intermediate county now at the minute? Yeah.
Intermediate county, aren't we?
Yeah.
And pushing forward. What's you went.
We
went senior.
Went to senior,
Went senior, yeah.
It's a big step up. You go from the intermediate to the senior. When you go, like from say a Galway second string to a Galway first team or Kilkenny first team.
Different ballgame.
It's a bit volume. But plenty of talent in Camogie and
Plenty of youth coming up to make that.
The intermediate was tough, particularly when the senior, I should say, after we won the Division 2A in Croke Park. And got moved up a little bit. It got a little bit tougher only because we were down personnel, and we had to use Pádraig had to use that time to bring through new players as well, which is fantastic for them. It'll stand to them in the long run. It just didn't suit us last year with some of the fixtures that we got against some of the big teams. But next year with Barry, he'll have a clean slate to work with as well, and hopefully he'll be all right.
Coming in with a bit of experience in their belt as well.
And those big matches where they're not nice, you're getting beaten, but you learn a lot from them. So if you can keep a lot
They're
of
the
those
ones
players,
that stick with you when you're going forward, you know what I mean?
For sure, and they'll stand to them. So it's just getting them together.
It was ironic that the team who won the title were actually the team that we almost beat. The one that we ran the closest was Antrim. We were only a puck of the ball away from beating them, and they went on and won the whole thing. So it was, we had a couple of not great days and a couple of really tight games, and we almost beat the team who went on to win it. So there's potential there.
And same in the LGFA, was it Tyrone win the
I don't talk about that anymore. Yeah, that was.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Tyrone. Yeah.
So again, plenty of potential there for. For both codes going forward as well.
Yeah, there is.
So what's going to happen with that? Is it we are going to come in under the one umbrella? Will that? Can you see it happening, or there is a blueprint for us? But the Camogie really flying solo anyway. The LGFA do as well, but Camogie have been probably around the longest. Am I right in saying that?
Probably are. Well, I suppose I've gone back to 1935 in the history. I think I was saying to you, Dinah, but it's I don't know. I know 2027 and all that is the big plan, but
whether it'll happen or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I'd love to know what's inside Mary McAleese's head when she's going through all these different things. And now, of course, the CEO of the Camogie is gone. The CEO of the ladies' football is stepping down. So you've got changes coming in, and
who knows what that to bring.
It's hard to know. I don't know, to be honest.
Let's look at senior A final. Jess, I'm going to let you finish up with the list of fixtures for this weekend in order and date order and whatever. But it's nice to see the senior final being covered live on Iarmhi TV and also coming direct from TG Cusick Park as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah,
It's come a long way, to be fair.
Yeah.
We had great finals last year as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
I was in the ladies' football ones and the Camogie ones. They were brilliant in their own different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got Drumrania Munnis Thursday night 7:30 in Kinnegad, and then Senior A 12 o'clock Cusick Park Saturday, Junior B 3:30 Saturday Shandona, that's Clonkill 2 and Southern Gales, and then Sunday 12 o'clock Cusick Park Brownstown and Cullinan in the Junior A.
Yeah, actually, that one also comes from TG Cusick Park, not being covered live on television. That one, so it's the Harney Clonkill one. I expect to be a huge crowd in Cusick Park on Saturday morning for that one. You know, get in early and you know, get a bit of a buzz into it there as well. So I know it's an early start for girls and everything like that, but it's nice that they're getting into Cusick Park. Hopefully the weather stays good, that we won't have any hiccups, no storm, whoever the next one is coming along this weekend, and that we'll get those two finals played in TG Cusick Park both Saturday and Sunday. Lads, it's been great talking to you.
Thanks for having us.
You know, keep supporting our podcast. we like everyone watching us, and the more likes and the more subscribers we can get, the better. So, and that's why for us on the podcast, it gives us, you know, to bring the LGFA and the Camogie to the people and talk about and get such famous faces, and you know, and we're privileged to get two former players like yourselves in here to join us. Huge amount of knowledge. I know Pamela, I came across you up against you playing Camogie when I was involved with Mead a long time ago. Dinah, you know, we all know the Loughlin name, and involved with Clonkill out there driving it on. Formerly of St. Mullins. I know you're probably keeping that quiet at this stage as well. And Jason Pierrot, the Camogie board. Lads, thanks very much for joining us. We're going to take a break on the podcast now because we're going to continue in about 10 minutes or so with our review of the weekend's hurling. Not a nice subject for Pamela either. She won't want to hear too much about that one. But we'll be looking back at that and looking forward to the football semi-finals this weekend. So join us back. Keep tuned in. We'll be back live in about 10 minutes or so. But for the three guys, look forward to seeing you in the park on Sunday. I'll be in there early myself and watching.
Thanks very much.
And thank you very much. Yes, and the best luck to everyone involved in the finals this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the second part of Iarmhi TV Club Podcast for tonight, episode 13, where we're going to look back on the hurling games played over the weekend. But before we do go into that, I have our two regular guests. Brendan Shaw back from East Travels joins us back again. Pat O'Brien, as always, you're very welcome. But on the extreme right, lads, you may not know him because he's normally behind the camera, but it's Tom Brown, who produces this programme every week. And Tom just wants to tell the viewers and the listeners what we have in store coming up over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So, Tom, over to you, sir.
Yeah, just thanking everybody for looking at the podcast. The idea of the podcast was to promote the games and keep entertainment in the football and the hurling. It's lovely to have the Camogie, lovely to have the ladies football coming on in the last couple of weeks. But there's a couple of teams I suppose we need to recognise over the next couple of weeks. The 1999 All-Ireland under-21 team, their under-21 year, say, anniversary, the 2004 senior Leinster winning team, they're under-21 as well. But we're kind of coming to the 1995 team, which is 30 years, and then we have two teams that are on 25-year anniversaries. That's the 2000 football under 20 and 2000 football minors. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll be introducing them into the podcast, getting more special guests. But I suppose these guys here will be glammed up for the 17th of October, when we'll be doing an up for the match before the hurling finals, and that'll be a live, obviously, podcast, but we'll have a live audience here and be welcoming people to come and have a look at what's going on within the podcast, maybe ask them a few questions. So a good show. Donny Malone and Marie Lina are putting together that show, so it should be a good night out for somebody. And then on the 24th is the football up for the match, so similar, we will be having our regular pundits on, running a regular of a podcast with a live audience, a few questions, and then a couple of special guests coming in. So over the next couple of weeks, it'll be coming to the business end of the championships for the semi-finalists and the finalists. But we'll also have in November then a couple of separate podcasts then that will lead us into, suppose, the Christmas period and keep everybody entertained up until, say, the end of November, and then take a break, and we'll be back hopefully for the successful inter-county season then.
Thank you, Tom. 3 more weeks to go before we'll have all our champions crowned. Again, Tom, you're looking for likes and subscribers again, as well, as always?
Yeah, we're looking for likes and subscribers. It just shares the whole, like, we're getting a lot of hits and a lot of views from America, overseas, local is obviously as well, but everybody is beginning to get on board, and we're delighted with how it's going. Plenty of more ideas to come on to the podcast and freshen it up a little bit, but before you can do that, you have to have the numbers, and now we're seeing the numbers coming through. So it's thanks to you guys here, and obviously Jerry behind the camera, and the lads from the football podcast, but doing a great job, and that's all I have to say. I'll leave it over to you.
Thank you very much, Tom. That's our producer, Tom Scats Brown, as he's better known as. He'll go back on the desk there now. So lads, we're going to look back on the hurling weekend that we had. We know who our lineup is for the 3 finals in 2 weeks' time. So, Brendan, I know you were at some of the games. Pat, you were at some of the games on Saturday. One of the games Saturday. Brendan, you were at one of the games, the other game on Saturday. So we have a bit of knowledge from both those games, and the 2 games, yes, in TGQC Park. Brendan, you were in, obviously, had a close interest in the second game. The first game, Pat, you were up beside us in the press box, and then you were on co-comms with myself as well on it. So look, we'll start with the intermediate hurling championship, and Brendan, you were in Collinstown. Now things ended up being a little bit a bit of a mess following the Storm Amy that happened on Friday evening. So that game at short notice moved out to Collinstown.
Yeah, look, it was unfortunate. The weather played an impact on the fixtures, and there was a lot of pitches not playable, but Loughlin Gales made their pitch available for the game. Now, look, they're probably not used to hosting games of that nature, and the pitch wasn't lined out, which was a negative for the game. But look, it didn't take away from the game. It was a mighty game of hurling, and there was a great crowd there. Very vocal on the sideline. There was a lot of sideline commentators, as I'd call them. They were fairly vocal, but all in all, it was a very enjoyable game. There was a strong wind favouring. I think it was favouring Turin in the first half, and they didn't really, I suppose, take advantage of it. There were 5 points in it at half time, but on the turn of half time, then Southern Gales really got stuck into it, and some wayward shooting from them really cost them dearly. Like, they had an opportunity to level the game at the last, a free on the last puck of the game. But I have to pay great credit to both clubs and both sets of players. They really gave it everything they have. It was a wholehearted. There was lots of trills and spills. There was mistakes. There was there was plenty of drama, and it was great entertainment for everybody there. And I want to pay a special compliment to Ken Gunning, referee. He refereed very sensibly in the conditions and allowed for that. And it contributed to the spectacle.
Joe and Brendan, 6 games played, 6 games won, so they'll go into a county final as red hot favourites.
You'd like to think that, Ray. Look, at justifiably they have. They've beaten everything in front of them this year, and they've they really kind of put up some fine scoring this year. Now the game on Saturday was more of a grind, but the outstanding feature of the game on Saturday was the performance of Darragh Smith at centre half back. He was absolutely immense, especially on the frees in the second half against the wind. I think he scored 6 or 7 really vital scores, and when you have a player of that calibre on your team, you're going to be thereabouts. Sean Leach had an off day on Saturday, but there were others there. The Scally guy there, cornerback, and even the goalie there, he was excellent. He made a vital save at one stage in the second half. Alan Ohi is rolling back the years. He's having a huge year, and he's been this type of condition suited him, and I think St. Bridget's will have, they're going to get a battle and a half off Turin. Seamus McKeown has them very well set up, and they're well organised, and I'm looking forward to that final now. It should be a right good game.
Look, before we continue, slipping in the back door there was Eddie Casey. So Eddie, you're welcome to the podcast tonight, and I'll talk to you a little bit as we move down the line about the underage semi-finals. I know your club, Oliver Plunkett's, qualified for a minor final, so we'll talk to you about that, Eddie, in a second before we go talking about football at all. Pat, yourself and myself were in Ringtown on Saturday afternoon. Again, another venue change, but pitch was absolutely in great order. Credit to them out in Ringtown as well. Talking to the various people, they made their pitch available at short notice as well. They had problems no more than in Coniston, Brendan, getting the lines, on the wet grass and in the wind and everything else. But I suppose, Pat, the wind was across the field there, so it didn't really make it a game of two halves as such.
Yeah, well, that's true enough. But just before we leave the other game, you don't mind?
Absolutely.
Great credit to Southern Gales for travelling the length and breadth of Westmeath to play a match where the opposition, you could say, walked to it. Now, in my book, it was admirable by what they done, and they came up short by 1 puck of a ball. So, hats off to them. There's no issue whatsoever. A pitch had to be found. The way the weekend worked out with the wind and the rain and whatever, there was more than one pitch unavailable, but it was a long drive for them, and I'd say it's a long time since they were in Collinstown, because Collinstown play all their underage in a higher grade, so hats off to them. They performed extremely admirable, as Brendan gave a great preview on it, so it's just the look at the draw, I suppose, the way it panned out. Our game, as regards the conditions, like Ringtown is a high pitch, and not that very well sheltered. But the wind was a kind of a crosswind, so it was always going to be difficult. You couldn't say you had a real advantage or a disadvantage. It was a matter of whether your players could adjust and it took them a bit of time, I suppose, to figure out, well, I need to put the ball in certain areas to try and keep it in play, or if I'm going for a score, it's this post I'm going for, not just shooting willy-nilly and hoping it, you know. So it was also a matter of trajectory on the ball, keeping it lowish, you know, rather than balloon. Anything that went up in the clouds was always going to swirl around and go somewhere, but it wasn't going to the target.
Yeah, I said that was very much evident. I think it was it Sean Jackson hit a free in the second half, and the ball looked like it was on target. It hardly hit the back, net at the back, through no fault of his, but just a gust of wind took it away completely.
That's what you're up against.
But good battle out there, Pat.
Yeah.
You know, 18-13 in the end. You know, we probably just a little bit stronger on the day, I suppose.
Yeah, well, look at it. We did predict all along that, you know, that Father Dalton, or not, sorry, St. Bridget's, you know, for all the, I suppose, hiccups and heartache they had earlier in the year, things fell into place for them coming up down the stretch. You know, they got into a semi-final. That's all they needed to do. They avoided Turin, which would have been regarded as the strong pin at the moment. They would have fancied playing Castletown because they knew it was Castletown's second team. Castletown's second team wouldn't be as physical, as strong built lads as, and I have said it a few times, that the Bridges team are a seasoned footballers, you know, who play hurling, and they know how to battle. They know how to grind out results. You know, they've been involved with Milltown Pass, the Bridge, Terrell's Pass, you know, and they've been playing tough games in football. So, you know, they've done exactly as I expected. They got over the line. They were more efficient in their forward line. That was the main difference. You know, the chances, Castletown had chances, plenty of chances, just weren't clinical. Whereas the points seemed to come that little bit more easier for the Bridges boys, or they just adapted that bit better and took their scores that little bit better.
So, lads, an interesting final to look forward to Saturday week in TG Cusick Park. As I said, all, you know, very much tongue in cheek. Like, obviously, Turin are going to win that, of course, but you know, it's you know, Turin have been, with all credit to them, they beat everyone in front of them. The Southern Gales, they beat them twice even as well. So, you know, they have to go in as favourites, you know, with the bookies anyway. It'll be a cracking intermediate.
Well, sure.
Look,
it's
a good thing too, Pat, before you go. Two sole intermediate teams in the final.
Yeah, no, that's what we were hoping for all along, that, you know, that the ethos of the competition would come to the fore and that you would have two sole clubs, you know, and you have two, I suppose, older clubs, you know, that haven't been, they're not newly formed, they're there, they have been there for a long time, out of the limelight for a long time.
Yeah, fair.
You know, both of them would love to get their hands on some silverware because it would be a huge boost. If you look at, say, where St. Bridget's are coming from, it's the first time that they have got hold of a piece of green grass that they're going to say, well, we have a house, a home. We need to get everything in order and get the youth and all that in. Wouldn't it be fantastic if they could brought silverware down there and that part of it? And then you go across to Turin, a young team that has been on, I suppose, the coattails of Clonkill for years, and there were always, I suppose, little bits of niggles there. There's the lads going across there, they should be staying here, whatever. But they joined up with Collinstown in the latter, say, 5 or 6 years, and it's really now that it's shown the fruition of a group team, they call them Piercy. You know, they got good coaching maybe between the two clubs. The better players on Turin started playing with better players in Collinstown, and they have done quite well, and it is a good combination. And now there is very good young players in Turin, but they have, I suppose, set the competition, you know, on light as regards their scores. We highlighted last week they have been top scoring away, but we did say that they were going into the trenches last week. It's a semi-final. The other teams, it didn't matter if they only scraped into it. They were still only in a semi-final. The conditions were slowing down. Pitches, as we know, did get wetter. But they did grind out the result. But they will have to adjust totally different now again for a final. I can imagine the excitement out around that little parish. You know, the bunting and the flags and the expectation. This is the problem, the expectation. You know, they're coming up against a team of, say, hardy warriors out in Dalystown who don't really mind. They'll remind me of Clarine long ago. They'll be coming in like Eugene Coughlin and the brother dragging the hurl in behind them, and they'll say, oh sure, just tell us what time it's on at and we'll give it a go. And, you know, I hope for Turin's sake that Seamus can keep them on a level keel, keep the hype down. you know, the need to perform. If they perform, it'll be a great day.
Yeah, I'd agree.
You know,
I'd agree, Pat. It's brilliant for children, haven't been in the final for so many years, and I remarked on Saturday the huge crowd and support that they have, and you know, it's the whole parish behind them, really, like, you know, and that's brings, I suppose, as Pat said, a little bit of expectation. And these children players are young, and it's their first experience for a lot of them to play a final in Cusack Park. So that's going to be a challenge for Seamus and his backroom to keep them guys, you know, focused for that, like not get carried away with the occasion. Like some of those St. Bridget's guys have been in this situation before, and that bit of experience like can be a great help to a team. Like, but you know, it's great to see children there. They're full of energy, and you know, it's a great to see a club that hasn't been in the final for many years going to be in Cusack Park on Saturday week, and I think we're in for a special occasion there.
Yeah, well, look, obviously. Brendan, you know, credit to children. They were the club, I suppose, that were affected most by the, what's the word for the not allowing the 18-year-olds to play with the decoupling.
The decoupling. They made a decision there, and they supported a decision for the 18-year-old to remain decoupled from the senior. And look, if that's paid dividends for them now, there's 3 or 4 lads there playing, and they're emerging onto that children team now, and that's going to be their. You know, the backbone of that team for many years to come. And look, the future's bright for them.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, as Pat said, the amalgamation with Napirsig has certainly, you can see the benefits of that. All those younger lads have played Division 1 hurling and underage, and you know, they're exposed to the highest level in the county, and you know, that's a real positive thing for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm sure the whole county will be delighted to see children going back up to Senior B. I hope to go back Senior B, but maybe in 2026, not 2025. But anyway, Eddie, you're very welcome to join us here. We're not leaving on the outside here, because I know go back to the underage, which also Pat has a big interest in as well. Oliver Plunkett's qualifying for a minor hurling final on Saturday as well.
Yeah, it's first time in a good few years that we've got the Premier final race, so big achievement for the club, and really looking forward to it now on Sunday week. Really looking forward to it.
You get to?
I was at the match.
You were on the way looking at all the 2 semi-finals, I believe, as well this weekend.
First thing I'll say about Oliver Plunkett is if anybody wants to see a team that's a structured, huge men, absolutely, they're the biggest. I've never seen a minor team as big. They're absolutely fine men.
Feeding them well in the town. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I met Declan O'Brien afterwards, and I just said, what is the secret? I said, that lad of yours must be 6'6". He said he's about 6'9". And he's mobile, and he can score, and he can use his hurley. And like Tom Ormsby has a fine lad. But they can hurl. This is a good outfit now.
Yeah.
These are a good outfit. They're very well structured as regards knowing what to do. Now they're very well coached. There's plenty of verbals coming in as regards where you should be and not be and whatever. And that's fine at underage. That's the way it works, you know, and they listen, which is more important, you know. So, look, it has the makings of a good final. I've seen Clonkill up front as well. They are a very serious outfit also, as all Clonkills have been at underage down the years. You know, they're well coached. There's a tradition there. That's the only thing, I suppose, the tradition. But at the end of the day, young lads don't really look at it like that. No. You know, they're 18, 17, it's their last chance. If you're an 18-year-old, you will never get a chance again. So I'm sure Eddie will have it instilled into them that this is a once-off chance. If you're 18, you have a chance of winning a minor medal. And I always said to the lads out in my time in Castletown, you know, it's nice to win a minor before you'd have an opportunity to win a senior if that opportunity arises. You know, because the 2 things go hand in hand. The All-Irelands, if you go back in years, always was a minor and senior on the one day. And you'd always see minor top players at counties, they always come to the fore at senior. You know, so it is a big day for young lads, and it's a big day for the club and a big day for Oliver Plunkett's. You know, it happened there. Clonkill won it last year, I think.
They're going for 3 in a row, actually.
The one and the year before that. Yeah, so they're a strong outfit, and they have some serious players as well. Yeah. Now, Plunkett's have been hit, unfortunately, with injuries early in the year, and they lost a good player during the week in Hugo Caroon, I think it was. That's right. You know, a very good player with the county development squads, like up at under 16. And I've seen him up front at under 16 this year, and he's a great man to carry the ball. You know, but look, they put that behind them and moved on. They were convincing winners in Castletown the other night.
Brendan, were you at the other semi-final?
I was in Clonkill, and I have to say I haven't seen as an impressive performance at minor level from a team in a long time. Clonkill are excellent. Oliver Plunkett will have their hands full. I think they're very familiar with one another. There's a couple of very, very good players. Like some of these lads played minor this year with Westmeath, Podge Monaghan. There's Keelan Loughlin and Dara Kenny. They're excellent players, you know, and you know they know how to play. But one thing that I just want to make the listeners aware that a lot of these lads will be in a minor football final as well, because the Downs and Mullingar Shamrocks, isn't that right, Eddie?
Right, yeah.
And there's a lot of overlap between the Downs and Clonkill, and between Mullingar Shamrocks and Oliver Plunkett. So these lads have a busy couple of weeks ahead of them. So that's all to be managed as well. Like, you know, trying to balance the hurling and football training. And I'm sure that's a challenge for both sets. You know.
Yeah. Eddie, that would be a big weekend for the club, so on Oliver Plunkett, because that's it. I presume that minor hurling final is before the senior final, and with the senior B final on the Saturday.
Yeah. Senior B finals on Saturday, I suppose. No more than Brendan was saying, is trying to keep lads injury free at this stage, and the same challenge arises with the Oliver Plunkett senior hurlers with Mullingar Shamrocks playing this weekend. Like, so it's I'm sure Dermot Curley, it's just a worry now that the lads come through on Saturday evening. Like,
yeah, and like you can't wrap players up in cotton wool, but you still want to get a little bit of game time in to get a bit of training done, but still you're always wary of a dreaded injury in the last week or so.
Yeah, we all know the predicament with injuries. It always happens to lads you don't want it to happen to. And, you know, that's no disrespect.
You would, but
and as Pat says, you can't swap them out. But, you'll be hoping, touch wood now, that the lads come through.
Yeah, and it's a huge weekend, and one after the other for those young lads. With the minor football final will probably be before the senior football final as well, and you know, which will be a great occasion.
It's great
for
the
them.
County Board has kept that tradition in place, as Pat said.
I think it's a great day for a minor to be playing in Cusack Park on county final day. It's a super occasion, and you know,
and especially if your senior club having to get into it and be there as well, bring the crowd in early and whatever else with it.
Yeah,
lads, looking back at the senior B semi-final at the weekend, Delvin 120, Ringtown 211. It ended up really, I think, with 10 minutes to go. I don't know, Eddie, whether you were in there or not, but the lads definitely were there. But like with 10 minutes into the second half, it was almost, you know, you were happy that Delvin were going to get to a county final. Ringtown lacking a little bit in scoring power. I think they ended up only with 2 scores throughout the hour, which never was going to win a semi-final.
No, Mark Cunningham and what's his name, Emma Corrigan were the two, I suppose, chief scorers for Ringtown, and you know, they struggled to put the scores up. Delvin had a bit more range of scores, and you know, Dean Ennis and one of the Fenlands in the corner there, who's very, very good. And you know, Pikey Cloone does his usual hassling and created stuff for others and scored himself, you know, and Dara Clinton chipped in with a few points as well. So, you know, Delvin had more of a spread of scorers, and they seem to get their scores easy. Like Adam Ennis had a fantastic game at centre back. He dominated the game there and gave great ball into the forwards. And you know, there was you know, 121 or 120, whatever it was, a fine score. And you know, from a long way out, Delvin looked pretty comfortable that they were, you know, they were there. Like Dean Ennis scored a fantastic find, one boot on and one boot off. It was absolutely brilliant, and he didn't slow him down or anything. He kept going, and he's whatever type of a style he has, he's able to swing that hurl very close to the body, and he's very difficult to hook. And I have to say, I know that it was a great performance by Delvin on Saturday.
Yeah, Pat, they would have been very happy. I imagine Seamus Ennis, Barry Kennedy, Martin Ford, Tony Clun, whatever the management there, seeing them all on the sideline. But they would have been quite happy with it. But no one, no more than the other two teams in the other semi-finals, there's no silverware one yet.
No. Look, they were setting, I suppose, the pace setters up until they met Oliver Plunkett in the last round, and it was always whoever won went to the final. We did say at the time that Seamus wouldn't be over disappointed. Like he had chances possibly to beat Plunkett's that day. Just they couldn't get level. They got to a point and they just couldn't get that level and score. But they did perform much better, you know, especially their forward division. Like, you know, they were very sharp. Their movement was good. They were clinical in the finish. Like, as Brendan has said, Dean Ennis was a joy to watch. Like, he's a very light of foot young lad, but his stick work is immaculate. He's a great striker. He's great wrist. You know, he gets great distance in his striking, but his accuracy is immaculate. You know, he's very good. The score that Brendan described, he finished it waltzing through, lads. His balance was terrific, and he actually took it off the stick. He didn't actually put it back in his hand at all. Yeah. You know, and he had only the one boot at the stage, but that, like, Keelan Murphy was a good target man also, but this young lad Kieran Fenlon was quite good in the corner. He showed very well for the ball. He got a couple of points, you know. Josh Call would be more noted for a forward as such, but they were clever enough. They brought him out around the middle of the field, and his distribution was good. He's a good striker at the ball also, like, and he has a great rapport, as we said before, with Dean Ennis. They've grown up together all through the ranks, and they find each other quite well. Dara is Dara. He plays on instinct. And most times Dara got the ball, he just turned on the sixpence and struck it. He presumed the goals was exactly where he thought it was. It was most of the time. A few times it wasn't. But that wasn't that the goals moved Dara. It's just, he was a little bit slightly off, but he doesn't dilly-dally much with the ball. No. He uses it wisely, he uses it quickly. He is a good target inside, you know. So I'd say he possibly is more adapting now to the Delvin game plan since he got back. Like, he had been missing for 3 months earlier in the year. Like, you know,
he was injured and he was in the States for a while as well.
Yeah.
So
no, it would be copy enough. I mean, Patrick Clune is a kind of a mystery guy, because you'd look out at him if you didn't know him and you'd say, Jenny, what's this fella doing out here? And he's plobbing around, and all of a sudden he creates havoc when someone is coming to win the ball. And he does simple things. Very, very simple. He'll get a little flick, he'll get a block, he'll catch it, he'll hand pass it. He won't do anything extraordinary. He doesn't try to do anything extraordinary. But he's effective, and obviously the guys on the line are happy with him, because he continues to play in that position. And he has, early in his career, he was a defender.
Right, yeah.
You know, so, but like I said it before, Barry Kennedy's very, very shrewd coach, you know, and Seamus is, you know, he's good at what he's at. There's a nice blend in that team, you know. They're coming up again.
Eddie's lapping all this.
Yeah, but that's fine. They're coming up. If they bring the sun on the day, they'll be difficult to handle. But if it gets a wet day, as I said numerous times, it'll be a totally different game for Delvin then.
Ringtown, Brendan will be disappointed. I think Eamon Corrigan scored 1-6 and Mark Cunningham 1-5. They were the only two scores.
Yeah.
And realistically, you need a spread. You need your other 4 forwards chipping in with a hell of a lot more before you're going to win a semi-final with that kind of an output.
You're not going to beat a team of Delvin's calibre if you've only 2 scoring forwards. And you know, Mark was kind of, it wasn't probably one of his better games, he'd probably admit himself, but he kept plugging away there, but he didn't, you know, Delvin were dominant, like, you know, they're Adam Ennis and Killian Murphy and Josh Call were sweeping back there, you know, and Josh has nearly found a new role there, like as a kind of an auxiliary midfielder, you might call him like that, and he's able to win those balls there in the middle of the field and break the tackle and give a good ball in, and that cut out a lot of the ball into the Ringtown forwards. So Mark had to run from deep, and same as Emmett, and you know, it's a difficult task, like when you're coming deep to try and score if your inside forwards are not able to win the ball and score. So you know, I think Delvin are there on the merit, and look, it should be a good final.
Yeah, it should be 2 best teams. Look, we're not going to preview the final because, as Tom has already said, we will be here on the Friday evening before, and the Friday of that weekend we will be here with a live podcast from Clark's Bar. So we'll have various people in and guests in from both clubs. So we'll look forward to that final at that time.
But just Mark Cunningham, I think, deserves a lot of credit there, because he scored a goal in 5 points from midfield. He literally was dragging Ringtown as best he could into it, and every time, you know, he'd chip in with a score. It seemed to be so easy for Delvin to go back down and punish it again with another score, you know. But
he has been bringing them by the scruff of the neck all year.
Absolutely.
He has, yeah. And I suppose Ringtown, they've had a bad old record in finals the last number of years, and you corner the 2 boys, Corrigan and Mark, you can corner them up, like, and but he gives it all with the county as well, and he's a super lad, so he's a great lad.
You know, this was a really good year for him. Like, he was, as we did state earlier in all the matches we were looking at Westmeath, he was the standout player, you know, for a new player. Yeah. You know, he was really, really good all through it. He had maybe a blip or two in some of the earlier rounds, but I would give him great credit for what he displayed there last Saturday, you know, or Sunday. You know, he really was dragging the team in, you know. It's just unfortunate, I suppose, that, you know, if you look at your forwards, you know, you got no scores from 5 out of your 6 starting forwards. Yeah. You know, and realistically, if you're going into a final or hoping to get there, you have to be, you know, it has to be spread of scores. Yeah. And that's the bottom line, you know. Whereas Delvin had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 forwards, you know, and Dara actually played as a forward, you know, and he scored. So basically, there was a good spread all over, you know. So Delvin will be quite happy with the performance, and they are where they wanted to be. Yeah. So,
as are Oliver Plunkett, and I think in this competition as well, we have the 2 best teams in the county final. That's at the end of the thing. That's what we want to see. And as I said, we'll preview that game closer to the time on our live podcast on I think it's on Friday the 17th. I think is we will be on. But again, we'll have further details on all our social media platforms in the lead up to that as well. So it's one to put in your calendar and join us for that. We'll also be having somebody from Loughlin Gales with us on that evening as well, because they emerged victorious yesterday, 2-18 to Raharney's 2-17. Brendan, it was a painful day for you. I'll let you think about it again another while. I'll go to the 2 boys about it. First, Pat, you were on co-coms with me, but it only ended up with 1 point in the end. But I think, in fairness to Loughlin Gales, you know, they had that dominance, I thought, for a lot of the game.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Raharney scored 1-1 in injury time. You know, I know there was 5 minutes, you know, of injury, but if there was another minute or 2, it could have. You just don't know. The momentum had been swinging back, but it was a game. It was a reasonably good game, but it was very physical and very, you know, in the trenches, manly stuff. That space was hard to find. You know, there was a lot of, you know, rucks and a lot of, I suppose, ball being won in tight situations, and just to get that little bit of space to open up the game was difficult enough. But I suppose there was great high feeling in it. And, you know, Devon Hill caught 2 balls, I think, early in the first half, and they both resulted in, he was fouled, and they were both frees, and they scored. And sure, the jogger and Owen Daly, I mean, we know how clinical they are in the air, and they gave an exhibition of catching ball. You know, but the thing about the jogger yesterday, he really came to the fore. Like, not alone was he catching it, but he was winning frees. He must have got at least 5 or 6 frees, you know, by actually, I suppose he's so strong that there's lads doing their best to stand him up, but it just get caught maybe the wrong side of him, or a hurl in or a hand in or whatever, you know. But if you were to look at it, I mean, David Williams ended up scoring 11 frees out of 11, and Keelan, I think, got 10 out of maybe 11 or 12. So that you'd say, God, there's an awful lot of frees, and Alfie wouldn't be one to be given too many handy frees, you know. So it just shows how tight, physical it was, you know. But the Gales did have that little, I suppose, little bit of edge all through. Raharney will be disappointed. They look on it, they made a few mistakes and they got punished for them. Collins were very clinical, like they didn't waste much ball as regards crazy shooting. You know, they were very, very, you know, shrewd in what they were doing, and when their shot choices was much better than it had been down over the last couple of games, and they took very good scores, like, you know. And I suppose, you know, like, goals win games, and they got 2 goals at the right time. I suppose Derek found himself, I suppose, at the end of a kind of a mishit from Raharney, but he was unmarked at the time, and Derek was Derek. He knows where to find a net. You know, he's clinical, and he ended up with 1-1. And like then later in the game, I suppose an overturn from the Gales and 2 or 3 passes, and it was handed to the right man, David Williams, and he's clinical, like. He really played well, like, you know, and he wasted nothing. He's free taken. For any young lad looking at a free taker, he just puts the ball over the crossbar, and that's all you need to do. He doesn't. The wind wasn't a factor to him at all. He didn't worry about the wind. He just kept his same striking of the ball, cuts it low over the bar, and that was it, like, you know. So.
And yeah, I'm leaving Brendan stewing over here for another while. You were in the park as well. What did you make of it?
I was a little bit disappointed with Raharney.
Yeah, right.
A little disappointed with Raharney. I thought the Gales, you were nearly starting to, with a couple of minutes to go, you were starting to head out. You know, it looked like it was over, and then they kind of went. At times in the second half, the Gaels had 6 backs against 4 forwards, and the ball was coming up, and the Gaels could just go out handy with the ball, and then they pushed up an extra forward with the last 5 minutes, and they turned over a bit of ball and got a break. Killian Doyle put 1 ball inside, and they got the goal off it, and it was game on. And you know, the Gaels were waiting for the whistle at that stage. As Pat was saying there, I thought Jogger was outstanding. I thought he had a great game, and you don't have to be Brian Coley to work out. The puckouts are going down top, the 2 big lads, and they caught balls. They caught some amount of balls yesterday. And now, when Mulcairns came out from full back, he started wrestling a bit with Jogger, and he got ball on the ground. And Raharney they did get a bit of, that worked for them, and they started getting the balls up. But I thought Raharney was just a little bit disappointed with them.
Brendan,
overall,
I know you're disappointed for both John and the club as well, how it turned out in the end, but the feeling today now after, stewing on it for the last 24 hours or so.
Yeah, look, it has been, I suppose the game yesterday kind of reflected the year Raharney had. It hasn't been a great year. We've stuttered a bit, and there's been no real momentum in our hurling, and a lot of injuries. But look, at full credit to Collinstown or to Loughlin Gaels yesterday. They played a high press game, and that's their style. They pressurise the player in possession, and the goals that they scored, they were coming from those pressurised situations. We made a couple of mistakes, and that cost us dearly. I think. We could have snatched a draw at the end, but I think Loughlin Gaels were deserving winners. Over the entire game, they done enough, I think, to merit their win. It's disappointing for all the lads in Raharney that they didn't really, they didn't hit the same performance levels that they'd want to. But the game was very physical yesterday, as Pat says, stop-start. There was no momentum. There was no free-flowing hurling whatsoever at all. It was all in your face, pressure, and that's the type of game that this time of the year, with the pitches are slowing down now, and maybe that kind of a game is what you're going to have from here on in. And there's you need men of steel to win.
Joey Boy was a loss to you.
He was a big loss, and with Robbie Grevillie playing yesterday, probably he'd missed a lot of the year, and he wasn't maybe as sharp as he normally is, and they're just those types of things. These are the small margins that affect the outcome. But full credit to the Loughlin Gaels. They mean business this year. I think they're very hungry, and they're very organised and very fit. And the 2 guys there, Jogger and Owen Daly, they're serious ball winners there in the half-hour line. And also, you have to, Noel Connaughton yesterday was again. He has shown game after game this year. He is without doubt the best goalkeeper in the county. He made a terrific save yesterday at a crew from Eamon Conini, at a vital time, and then he has a presence of mind then to be able to pick out Shane Williams or David out at the sideline and restart the game again. I think it's a huge asset that the Gaels have, and they're going to be a formidable opponents for Castletown now in the final.
Yeah, and Eddie, you have to admire Loughlin Gaels. There's heartbreak, 2 years ago, heartbreak again last year.
Yeah.
But as the man beside me here said to me yesterday after commentary, Castletown lost 3 in a row. There's no guarantees that the sporting gods, smile down on you, because there's nothing to say that by getting this far that they're going to win it this year. But great credit to them to get back.
Horgan didn't get his All-Ireland medal and won't be getting one. And I suppose more the Gaels have stuck with the management team. They've stuck with Joey Williams, and they've stuck with their own out there, and I respect them for that. They're probably working off a smaller base of players than a lot of the other senior clubs. I don't know how many exactly, but as they're going to give Castletown loads, but Castletown know what's coming. And as I said earlier on, we know where the puckouts are going, we know what's going to happen, but you have to go and sort it out.
Yeah.
And they'll be up for the game. Castletown look, we all know how good Castletown are, but the Gaels are going to be there, they're going to be in their faces, they're going to give it everything. As I said to you, Raharney was a good run out for them yesterday. It's a good run out. It's a good run out for the Gaels yesterday, and to get that panicky bit the last 5 minutes, that'll stand to you come a county final. You know?
Yeah, look, I suppose I asked the question, was an advantage to finish top or go into a semi-final? I suppose when you get through the semi-final, it's always a benefit, you know, you having that game under your belt. Delvin would feel that way, you know, and the Gaels would feel it as well.
Yeah, well, that's true. Like, sure, look at it is where it is. Like, someone has to finish top, someone finishes in the next 2 and 3, and that's the way you play it. Like, but we did say at half time, like, Collinstown were doing enough, but they had 2 great guns to come on, and Jason Malone and Owen Daly, and lo and behold, the 2 of them did come on straight away at half time. You know, I'd say it was well planned. You know, possibly Joey was hoping if he got the win, well, he'd probably have enough to do with what he had on the field, but he was going to have really 2 good players to come in. I've great admiration for this Jason Malone. I think he's really, really good at the back. He had been playing forward. 2 years ago he was in the forwards, and last year, I remember, he was coming into the defence, and he was really good at mopping up ball. He's a good striker at the ball, and he's physically strong. No, he's a good player, you know. But I mean, they can afford, any time that Collinstown can afford to keep the jogger up in the half-forward line, you know, it means to have huge faith in the guys at the back. You know, and Dan Higgins is an unsung, he's an unsung hero. Absolutely.
You know, Darragh Daly again gets no credit in the corner. That is Darragh,
and Micheál is good. Like the 3 Daly lads, you know, and I mean, they're playing in a difficult year this year, like, you know, and all fairness to them, they're hurling well.
The defensive unit is very, very solid. You know, they'll take a bit of breaking down their defence, like, and they're very well organised. They all know their jobs, you know, so. You know, they're a team that they know each other's play so well at this stage. Like they're nearly, you know, they know where the players are, and you know that's a sign of a team that, you know, they're all on a very similar coherent team game plan. You know.
They seem very focused. But look, it's a cracking final in store, a repeat of last year's final as well. Castleton will know what they need to do, they'll know what they need to bring. The Gaels, I'm sure, will have plenty more up their sleeve as well on the day. So it's an intriguing battle. Again, we look forward to that one as well. We won't really discuss it, as I said, because we will be meeting up here on the 17th of October on the Friday night, so we'll have our expert pundits back in, and that we'll let you have a good go at who's going to win that one. Lads, next weekend, we're going to look forward now this time to the big ball. As it's commonly called, the semi-finals of both intermediate, Junior 1, Junior 2, Intermediate and Senior this weekend. I'm going to look at the Junior 2 games first. Junior 1 and Junior 2 sponsored, as always, Clark's Bar. Give them a shout out again, Kieran and the crew here, and Carrie, and we thank them for their hospitality. Garrycastle Thirds Pass, Tubberclare and St. Paul's. Garrycastle Thirds Pass on the Saturday in the Downs at 2 o'clock. And Tubberclare and St. Paul's on the Sunday, I think it is, at 2 o'clock in Ballincarrigy. One sole junior team left in it, Eddie. I don't know how you know much about. Have you seen much of these Junior 2 games? But it's a good competition. Clubs are moving from up and down. Paul's fell down last year. We're hoping to get back out of it this year. But the 3 second string teams are strong this year.
Yeah, but no more than Pat's comments about St. Bridget's there coming in. The St. Paul's boys will be hardened with Brownstown, and like St. Paul's come back over the years. Eugene Dolan and the Cars and the boys were well able to play football. I think Tommy Carr won a couple of senior medals with the Downs, like, you know. So I'd never, and St. Paul's, like the club is going well out there. I don't know if you've ever been out there. They have a great setup out there. The pitch is lovely. The fence around it, and they're Astro. And I was surprised. I was out there one morning there about 2 years ago, and I was really surprised. Like, so the club is going forward. There's a few houses being built around Clonmelon. So you'd like to see them winning the game, but Tubberclare probably, you know, how. Like the club is going well there as well, and you know, I'm sure they've some young lads who are just not good enough to get on their intermediate team, and you know, they'll be well coached and drilled. Tubberclare are well coached, well drilled, but I said probably will Paul's tip it right.
See, that's the thing about the second string teams. If their senior team or their A team is still in the championship, they're playing. They're getting the same training as their adult team is, and they're getting probably in-house games at a higher level than they would be in Junior 2. So the games will stand, the training will all stand to them. So that's the danger that Paul's will run up against, you know, because Clare are, they have plenty of players.
Yeah.
They're able to field these two teams, and but as I said to you last week, all the second string teams, they're starting from number 22 because they had to use all these other guys in their first outfit. So you have to look at it both sides of the coin. So it's up. The likes of it, we'd all love to see, as a neutral, the sole junior clubs coming out of the junior competitions, but they have to get knuckled down to it and don't be worried about, well, what these guys have. Just go for it. You're the junior team that you need to show that you're good enough to get out of it.
On the other side, Brendan, Garrycastle and Thurles both their first string teams gone out of their respective championships as well. So they'll be able to spend the last couple of weeks as the only teams maybe training at this stage.
Yeah, I suppose the momentum of the senior teams being involved in the championship, Garrycastle and Thurles Pass being out of their respective senior championships will be difficult for players to keep it going at this stage. I believe that Garrycastle and Thurles Pass played each other in the group round robin. I think Garrycastle came out on top on that, but that game back, whenever it was in the end of July, will have no bearing on the game next weekend, because players may have lost players and you could be a completely different team. In fact, you just don't know. But look, it's hard to see. Those team, the team that are, I suppose, Clare are in a good place. They have that momentum from the intermediate team. It's hard to see. St. Paul's. It'll be a difficult task for them, I think, against Clare. And the other game, Garrycastle, Clare, really hard to call. Thurles Pass, excuse me. I think the two clubs with great football traditions, like they're not going to lay down either of them, but probably if I call it, Garrycastle win there.
Yeah, we'll look at those two games, one on Saturday at 2 p.m, the first one Garrycastle Thurles Pass in the Downs at 2 o'clock on the Saturday, and the other one in Ballinaclargy, that's Clare and Paul's and Ball at 2 o'clock on the Sunday. The Junior 1 semi-finals are two very intriguing games, and I think on any other competition these should be getting, I think, an awful lot more exposure, because there's two cracking games in store here. Two sole junior teams coming up against the second string from two teams whose senior teams are in the semi-final. So you have St. Joseph's against Mullingar Shamrocks on Saturday, 3:30 in the Downs, and Ballinagore and St. Lomans on Sunday at 2 o'clock in Rochester Bridge. Now, the two sole junior teams, obviously, like as Pat said already, as neutrals, we'd like to see the two of them get into a final. But I don't know, Pat, these two second strings are going to take some beat.
This is going to be tough now, because the purest of us all would love to see the junior teams come out, but that's not to be heard tell of around the town, because the town are working hard at what they've got, and more luck to them. If they're able to put out two strong teams at senior and junior, that's their prerogative. And they are, obviously, they are. And they've already beaten sole junior teams in Bunbrusna and Ballinaclargy along the way in the last quarter-final. So it's a daunting task for both of these clubs, but these two junior teams they're not just your ordinary run-of-the-mill junior. They're strong juniors, and they have youth on their side, and they have a little bit of experience. And the likes of St. Joseph's, if you look at them, first of all, like they got to the final last year. They're possibly the day was probably the worst day of the year that was out there. Yeah. There was a wind and rain that you wouldn't, as Christo said long ago, you wouldn't put your mother-in-law out. Yeah. But I mean, it was just extremely difficult, and the team that kind of got the running with the wind kind of held on, and Finney done that last year. But Joseph's have knuckled down. There have a lot of lads there. I've seen them to do hurl with Castletown and that. They're good, strong young lads, and they're very keen and they love their football. And it's a very proud developing club down there. So they will be really up for it. My own village, Ballinagore, I've said it along. They have very good young lads. And with the experience of Tommy Mack with them this year, he's kind of gelled them kind of together up front. They have size and they have pace.
Dara Seary as well.
The likes of Dara Seary is good, like Cody Fanan, Peter Reynolds there is a big strong man in the middle of the field. They have Brandon Carey has been knocking around, he knows, there's young Keegan. They're all there You know, but Michael Ennis has them well gelled together, like, and you know, he lives among them and he knows them all. He knows what they're at, and he can meet them up and down. And you know, there's a great unity there. You know, and they were always a great traditional junior team that went up to intermediate and probably, you know, just didn't hold their own. But they have the makings of something coming now. But next Sunday will be a big test for them. You know, like Lomans are Lomans. You know, you just don't. I even see the Evergreen Paddy was full forward the last day.
I think he went off after 10 minutes the last day, Pat. Yeah, he went off injured after 10 minutes.
Right. Well, I mean, I just noticed on the paper his name there, all right. So, but I mean, his experience alone about telling, you know, younger players. I'm sure there are plenty of younger players as well as a mixture of both. But that's the town. The town is growing. You pass through it. There's houses being built everywhere. And if these two clubs keep accommodating, you know, with their facilities, that's the way it is. And it's up to the rural clubs to, you know, fight their corner. But this is a day for the rural clubs to stand up and say, well, we want to win the junior more so than second teams.
What I find intriguing with this is we all know the makeup of the junior champ, that junior one competition, you know, with 1, 2, 3 and 4 teams qualifying from each group, and the sole junior teams on one side and the second teams on the other. We have the meetings of the top 2 in each group in these semi-finals. Now, whether you probably know a little bit more about the Shamrocks lads and, you know, maybe some of the Lomans lads as well. So, you know, they'll be going to get into a final, both of these.
Yeah, like I was just looking through the Shamrocks lads. You've got like Philly Shaw's in goals. You know, you know, Philly Shaw's in goals.
Was a senior goalie 2 years ago.
Davy Coyne is probably in his mid-20s. He was on the senior team. Alan Cashman has played around middle of the field for the senior. Mial Curley is manager. You've got young Pierce there that played in the minor final last year. He scored a load of points in the last game. Young Carnally's not towards. So they've a good solid team. Like, and no more than says St Joseph's need to come with fire now.
Yeah.
They need to come with fire. The Shamrocks lads, they'll be coached. They'll play like the senior team. They'll be, you know, they'll know all what's going on. And Joseph's need to come with fire and just go at it, like, big time. And go back to in the Lomans, I was just going through the Lomans team, like with a few of the hurlers, young Meehan that hurls with us is there, and Shane Mulderry is there, like, and then you're Paddy Dowdle and a few other boys, Ryan Jones is there tipping away as well, like, and no more than Ballagore like have some, like Tommy McDaniel's, like, he adds a bit of class to that team, you know, and he adds a bit of class. He can shoot, he can score points, he'll set plays up, you know, and you'd think that him with the guys you mentioned, Fanan lad and that, like, that have something there. But again, they need to come out as if it was
a final.
You know, Park, you know.
Yeah, but look at it. These do or die for all these knockout football. Like, you're, you know, so some one of these teams are going to train for the last time this week for the year or whatever. Like, you know,
I think you have to go back a good few years now for a second string senior team winning the junior one. I think with Mullingar Shamrocks in 2013 or something like that. It's no, we need Tom Hunt here for that statistic. But
2 years ago, Lomans were an extreme hard luck. Kilbeggan got a winner at the last minute.
You know.
If you look, the town teams will know how to play.
They'll
know how to play. They'll be coached the last level on it.
They'll be playing with elite players at training all the time. You know, if you're a Lomans young lad and you're training with the likes of John Heslin and Ronan and these guys that were there for the last number of years, you're bound to be learning. You know, you're surrounded by talent.
But look at, I suppose, Brendan, the purists in it would love to see a Ballinagore Joseph.
We would. Definitely.
Now, look at you. We could have 2 local derbies, one way or the other. If you could have Mullingar Shamrocks and St Lomans, we could have St Joseph and Ballinagore, or any combination of 2 of them. But I think the purists would like the 2 junior teams to be contesting the junior.
Remember, there's no sentiment in sport.
I know that.
You get out there and you go for it and you take it if it comes.
Oh yeah, and you do your best on the day that's in it. There's no point in saying, well, next year's our year, or anything like that. This is the way you do it. But lads, I think there's a great entertainment value in Cusack Park both Saturday and Sunday. Now, those junior games obviously not in TG Cusack Park, but in the Shea Murta precast semi-finals in intermediate and senior. Double header Saturday, double header Sunday. On Saturday we have Milltown Pass and Tubberclare. And on Sunday then we have Milltown and Shandona. Now we'll look at the first one, Tubberclare and Milltown Pass first. Milltown Pass, we know, came out of Section B, did well in the quarter final, maybe a little bit more comfort than we thought over Multi in that quarter final, but we see the quality of Brandon Kelly on view as well, and he could be the X factor in this one as well. Tubber Clare would want to be very, very wary of him.
Oh yeah, well I mean, Brandon Kelly is really coming to the fore at the right time, and I mean, Duncan is a serious outfit. Yeah. He came home at the right time. He didn't just come home at the latter stages of the competition. He came home and he got himself geared for this competition, and his flight is pending. And that's the bottom line. He'll wait until, if it's after the semi-final or after the final, it doesn't matter, but he's totally committed. They're able to score. I know they had a blip there a couple of weeks ago in the game before the last one.
Against Finney,
But I mean, that could have been, a blessing in disguise for them in one sense. If you were to have a blip, that was the right time to have it. I've seen Tubber Clare up front. They're nice footballers, but when it gets into the trenches, I'm not sure whether to have it there or not. Now, Matthew Whittaker, he wasn't playing the day we done Milltown, and then he will be a huge asset. He's a top class player. A couple of years ago, Aidan O'Brien, my brother, told me he watched him below playing Westmeath and Kildare, and he thought he was a real prospect, and he didn't know who he was. He just thought he was something. There was class about him. He just picked him out as a different type of player. Tubber Clare need him, but Tubber Clare need to get that fire in the belly. They need to work hard. They need to say, well, if this comes down the last 10 minutes, have we got the bottle for this? And if they have it, well, it's going to be a huge battle. But
Milltown Pass, like our battle-hardened team, they have their the Finbar Kine there and Sam Duncan, and they're serious players, and when it comes, the tougher it gets, the better they like it. And as Pat said, Tubber Clare will play great football if you allow them. They have fantastic skillful players like Owen McCabe there and Matty Whittaker, and there's a couple of the Kelleher's there as well. They can all kick ball, but like when it comes to I'm not sure if they Cusack Park hasn't been a great hunting ground for them in knockout games. Like they were beaten last year, I think, after a game against Multi, and the year before I think Shandona beat them in the final. So they're having a great track record in Cusack Park. So like semi-finals tend to be tense affairs, and you might now, if it's a tight game, I'd be fancying Milltown Pass in this one now.
Eddie, have you seen either of these much of them?
I think Milltown Pass, every time I've seen them come to the park as favourites, they nearly disappoint. Like a couple of county finals, and they were hotly tipped. Like, and they're coming in, I would say, as underdogs. Like Tubber Clare are the talking team, like in intermediate this year. Like, but you have to give Milltown Pass respect for that forward line they have. Even going back 3-4 years ago, Kine and Kelly were inside, and I thought the ball should be played a little bit different. They were trying to run it in instead of kicking it into the two lads, and like it'll come down. As Tubber Clare, like they're set up now, everybody knows them. They're after putting up a big score against Shandona the last day, so they're coming in as favourites, and I think Milltown Pass as an underdog suits them better. Them better, like coming in, and they've nothing to lose, and like Duncan will get plenty of it around the pitch on Saturday. I think it's Saturday. He'll give loads of it, like. And Kine, I always rated Kine as an inter-county player, hampered with injuries, had the size, the physique, and the boot for inter-county, and like if he can produce. It's going to be a tricky one. Yeah, it'll be a tricky one.
Tubber Clare now, of course, have sat for the couple of weeks since that last group game. Milltown Pass, had a game against Multi, probably won it maybe a little bit more comfort than we predicted, but they look good with it. Like they have scoring forwards. Their defence is not bad either. Noel O'Reilly's there at centre back, and against Liam Riley at full back. He's a big man. He can forward. He's got a peach of a goal in that game against Multi. They've plenty of talent. Like, and you go inside, you have the two Brendans and Brandon Kelly, and they can play it any which way. Like, two boys play good soccer, so they know how to. They're skillful. They can create openings, they'll pick out runs, and Brandon Kelly's a finisher. He's got like 11 goals in 3.5 games or something like that. That's a phenomenal.
Pass probably need to be tighter at the back. I'm not sure what Wally scored in the quarter. 14, did he?
14, yeah.
I don't know many were from play, but one fella scoring 14, surely you'd have a job done on him after the 12th point.
A job, could you elaborate on the job?
Maybe 2 lads on for a while.
Are we talking Tommy Gallagher territory here?
Speaking of, Tommy was on to me last week in the lead up to the games in Australia, looking as well as ever too, along with another good friend of mine, Dan Kelleher from over from Tubber, and Claudia Gales. Pat, you'll remember him, playing hurling with Westmeath Schools. He played hurling with Offaly afterwards. But anyway, back to the football this weekend. Lads, the one on Sunday. They're going to meet in the blue collar boxing event later on in the year. We're going to get a preview of this one.
I'd say
Milltown and Shandon.
We're doing well. There'll be a 15 at the finish of this.
They will.
They'll concentrate on the football for this. Like, it's Shandon are coming into this, like, whether it was premeditated or what. I mean, they just didn't turn up against Tubber Clare. Now, whether they knew that, look, we were going to be in the semi-final, but at the same time, they got too much of a drubbing for that to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's very hard to know. Like, they were going well early in the year. They were unlucky not to stay a senior last year, to have a nucleus of a strong outfit. But it's just in their mindset, it's not the nicest position to be coming into from your last game, unless they just completely wipe the slate clean and wipe it away from the memories and get stuck into this. But stuck in, we'll have to get, because Milltown will love that. You know, Milltown are a country team that, you know, the harder you give it, the harder they'll give it back. You know, and they were there last year. They probably felt they were a little unlucky not to win a county final. It's the way it goes. Like, but you know, they're doing their job. They're getting through the work. That day against Tubber Clare, they looked a beaten docket, but they never gave in, and they kept holding out and kicked a couple of 2-pointers at the finish and got over the line. You know, and like their defence runs, they're very good at keeping the 3 up and 3 back, that kind of a thing, because they keep changing all the time. You know, and I did say the last day, like the wing back there, Matty Gunning, and even the corner back, he's Maguire, I think. They keep chasing up the whole time and they get on scoring positions. Now, Gunning was very good. He was scoring. He scored 2-3
or something.
You know,
from wing back,
from creating them chances. So they'll take a lot of watching and minding, like. But it has the makings of a close game if both of them bring their A game.
Yeah, and Eddie Shandon, I know it was a funny game. Like, they only scored 1-3, and I think up in the 61 minutes they only had 3 points on the board. Like, as Pat said, it's very hard. It's not like a computer where you can just wipe the drive. Like that thing will be, you know, on their minds going into. But maybe it's the kick up in the rear that they need. That they can see what can happen if they're not at the pitch of it.
Well, he's probably incredible like that. I don't know what way they were set up for the last day. Like, were they thinking, okay, we'll take it handy, and then you get that hiding, and like now you have to. Then the lads in the dressing room will start talking after the game. Fans will start talking. What's going on? What's happening here? And now I suppose he's putting it up to them now. The manager will put it up to them and say, lads, are we going out with a whimper here, or are we going out with a battle? Because you're not going to call Milltown. You know, they're not going to be sucked into thinking, you know, they're going to come out. Milltown, as Pat said, they're going to come out all fire, and that's the way they play. And a very intelligent football as well. As, you know, half backs up and down the pitch, backs moving everywhere. So. But there has to be, as I think Shandon were unlucky not to stay senior last year. I think a couple of years before that, Shamrock beat them down in St. Lomans. They were unlucky that year as well. Like, so, there's definitely more in them. Now, whether it comes out at the weekend, it's to be seen. But there's definitely more in them. And for the sake of the match, if they play like they did against Tubber Clare, it's not going to happen. But I'd be very surprised if that's the way it is.
Yeah, the Shandon have plenty of talent.
Lots of talent.
Danny Scahill,
McQuaid,
Garrett Carr,
Tom, you know the
Tom Malloy. There's
Ryan Donnelly,
quality forward. He can score. You know, but I think this game is going to be a really tight battle now. It's going to be a battle of wills, and you know, as Eddie said, Milltown they're that hard country team. They'll be up for the battle. Well coached, very well coached. But they were in the final last year, like, and they didn't get their. You know, Conor Dillon is missing this year, but it doesn't seem to have affected them. Like there's a Gibney guy there, centre back, and he's an excellent player. I think he played a bit of rugby, but he's really gels that whole back line together, and you know, they're battle hardened.
Ben McGovern's been slightly off a little bit. Like, he need a game now. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah, well, you know, you have Dara Conway. Is it Dara Conway?
Dara Conway, yeah.
You know, they've plenty of talent. I mean, the two Murtas, the Twin Towers are in the middle of the field. I mean, all you do is horse it out.
You have to get by them.
Yeah. You know, they'll win a lot of stuff in the year as well. You know, Shandona, as I said, I think they have to bring it. They have to be like they're at last chance saloon, like in a performance like the last day, they'll be bet out the gate, and there will be local, you know, bragging rights at stake here on this one as well. The two clubs are running into each other, like, and you know, there's good relations off the field, obviously, but like one of these is going to have to get bragging rights and get into a county final, and I think this one is very, very much 50-50 going into it on Sunday.
And I suppose the other thing to note as well, all these games have to play to a finish.
Yes.
You know, so. There's possibility of extra time here, and dare I say the penalty shootout, which we none of us want to see. But you know, that's I suppose a scenario that these teams will have to be prepared to. Maybe we don't want to see it too often, but that can happen. Like,
they know each other well now. They know each other well.
Yeah. There's nothing hidden here. There's no one going to put a rabbit out of the hat, like, and that no one knows about it. So. I think that is the value and entertainment value here for Saturday and Sunday. Milltown Pass and Tubberclare at 2 o'clock on the Saturday, and Milltown and Shandona at 2 o'clock on the Sunday. Both of them live on Iarmhi TV. So, you know, I think there'll be a huge crowd in for both of us, because that intermediate championship, we see it here every year. It's so hard to pick the winners of it, and even now we're down to 4. And it's really hard to pick it even at this stage. Any of those 4 teams are good enough to win the intermediate championship, in my opinion.
Yeah. Absolutely, very little between any of them now.
Senior semi-finals. The first one on Saturday, 3:45, TG Cusick Park, and Lomans versus Coruscant Kinnegad. The second game on the Sunday, again at 3:45 in TG Cusick Park. Both of them live on Iarmhi TV. The Dunta versus Mullingar Shamrocks. We'll take the Lomans Coruscant Kinnegad game first. Eddie, I'll throw it at you that Kinnegad stumbled their way through the group stages, but might be hitting form just at the right time.
Well, I was reading Jack today. It's a good time of the year to be building momentum, he says.
Yeah, well, it's a good comment.
I suppose it's not too far off the beaten path, but I suppose Jack needs to build a bit of momentum coming into this game. Like, I was thinking about it, like, young Giles is as good a left foot as I've seen. You can go back to Tommy Cleary, Joe Fallon, Fergie Wilson, the boys. I'd like to see him where he can swing that left foot over the bar. And I suppose then you come up against St. Lomans. Probably people are saying, like, Lomans, if you gave them a semi-final here 2 months ago, they're taking your hand off. They're where they want to be, and you get those 4 forwards that are inside. We all know who they are. Like, they're the best forward line in the county. And then I suppose Sam McCartan, he's like a young Jimmy Dolan. Like, that's how good Jimmy was when he was 24, 25. And Sam McCartan, I don't know what position he plays, but he plays centre back, midfield. I can't work out where he plays sometimes. You nearly want to put a blooming drone on him. But going into it, like, it's Kinnegad's. It's a time for Kinnegad to shine. Will they take St. Lomans down? St. Lomans know how to win semi-finals, and they'll come down the stretch. Like last year, I remember in the county final, there was a kick missed from the downs on the right hand side of the pitch. 5 minutes later, Hesslin got the same ball, bang, black spot. And John Hesslin won't be missing them on Sunday. He won't be missing them, and Kinnegad need to be top of their game, and they need to score. They will need to score on Sunday, because that St. Lomans team will score.
But Coruscant Kinnegad, Brendan, in that quarter-final game, I think we saw a look at the potential that's in that side.
Yeah, like
the players back. Like Owen O'Brien, one player in particular, was absolutely outstanding in that quarter-final, as was Josh Gahan.
Absolutely. And I think, look, Kinnegad are a team that maybe they need to throw off the shackles a bit. You know, it's all or nothing now on Saturday. You know, they need to go at this game at a high tempo, and I think will suit them better. I think if this defensive kind of screening type of game that they have, we all know that they play, You know, in the previous game, in the round game against St. Lomans, I think they only scored 10 points. You know, and that's not going to win on Sunday. They need to get into high teens or 20s, 20 points. You know, and you know you have Dan Leach inside there, and he and the other Leach guy, Ger as well. You know, and as Eddie said, Darren Giles. These guys can all score, but they need that quick ball in, and I think that's the key for Kinnegad on Sunday. But look at Lomans are just so experienced, like, you know, they know how they've been in this situation so many times, and they've got serious quality. But look, you know, it's a semi-final, and you know, Lomans will be favourites. You know that there's no two ways about that. Like, but Kinnegad need to bring that tempo. They need to and you know they've been their goalkeeper has been struggling a bit. I don't know what goalie they'll have next Saturday. You know you know, and that's a little bit of a worry. Like, you know, that you haven't got a settled goalkeeper. Like, you know, look at Jason Daly there. He's there. I don't know how long, but like he's so experienced. Like, and that's a very vital position with the current game. Like, you know, so if Kinnegad can get that, you know, the restarts are going to be key, I think. You know, like Lomans know how to win these the kick-outs, and they're just, Sam McCartan there just drifts into these positions and can get these goals and 2-pointers. Like, he's a huge talent. Like, he'll be able to do that. But look, I just can't see. I think Lomans will just about do it now.
Pat, Carson Kinnegad coming in with the benefit of a quarter-final win. Will it just close the gap that little bit that they have had that competitive game? And, you know, Lomans in their last group game was, you know, an easy enough victory over Terrace-Pass out in Castown, and they've been, you know, I'm sure Paddy has been working them hard in the intermittent time, but, you know, Carson Kinnegad, they certainly looked a lot more like what we expect from them in that game against Collery.
Yeah, but sure, they had done nothing up to that. Like, I think they had lost 3 games in the round robin. And I mean, as John says, it's time to be building the momentum. So they have nothing to lose. It's just go in and have a cut at it. I mean, I suppose most pundits would expect Lomans to win the game, but that's the day that Lomans have to be really under guard. They really have to make sure they do bring the A game, because, I mean, you know, Kinnegad, it's only a couple of years ago that Kinnegad were competing in county finals and ran very, very tight. And realistically, you know, they have quality players. It's just a matter of getting them to gel on the day and move the ball a bit faster. As Eddie said, let it in as quick as you can. They have decent forwards inside, but Lomans have that maturity about them that they don't panic. They take it, you know, at their own pace. They realise, like, if we're a couple of points down, it's okay. We just get the ball down into the shooting zone, find the shooters, do the simple stuff, keep tipping away, you know. But it's there for Kinnegad. They've nothing to lose. Nobody expected them after a couple of rounds to be in this position, so they're there now. Have a cut at it and see where it gets you.
Yeah, I think it's the makings of a cracking game there as well. Lomans experience, they'll go in as favourites, but they'll carry that tag, no bother to them. They're well used to being in that position. They have a lot of talent. You know, a couple of new players coming in this year as well, which has some weakened them. And, you know, it's a day for Kinnegad to step up now, and, you know, you're at last chance saloon at this stage now.
I expect young Cooney now to play with Breen Cooney. I expect him a big game from him now.
And they moved him out to the middle of the field the last game and seem to benefit from it.
Yeah, I expect a big game from him. But as Pat said, like, if they play a slow ball, St. Lomans will get back into the defensive setup, and they're the team that they can break quick or break slow. They'll just wait to get the shooter on the ball, bang, you know, 2 points.
The last semi-final of the weekend, the Downs against Mullingar Shamrocks, 3:45 in TG Park on the Sunday. The Downs, you know, we've said it on this podcast, the colour throughout the 2 senior championships was black and amber. In the football championship is the Downs. They'll go in as favourites into this one as well. But Mullingar, again, Brendan, no pressure on them, have probably exceeded their expectations from the start of the year.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think the Downs have been setting the standard, you know, the benchmark, as I say, for the rest of the teams to get to. But Mullingar Shamrocks, like, Micheál Burke would be very happy you know, to be where they're at in a semi-final of the football championship, like, he'll be delighted, and so will all the Mullingar players and that. They're in bonus territory here, so they have. They can go into this game like there's no pressure on. They can go in here and just give it a lash and see what happens. And now the round robin game, that the last game that they met, it wasn't a great. Downs had already qualified. They just went through a. It was wasn't a great game, but I expect Mullingar will come. You know, they've nothing to lose here, and they're just going to give it a rattle. And you know, they're. You know, they'll give plenty of it now to the Downs. You know, but I do expect the Downs have, you know, they have a huge the panel they have, and the way they're playing this year. You know, they're going to be hard to contain now. That's just the reality of it. You know.
And the quarter final, Mullingar and Garrycastle probably was the game of the championship so far. It was the one that set it up, and a really hugely exciting finish to it. It looked like Garrycastle had clinched it. Game went on. Some people weren't overly happy that time wasn't blown up at that stage, but man in charge elected to let the play go on, and credit to Mullingar, they worked it around and they got the opportunity, and Brian Gearan was in the right place to finish it at the back of the net. But it was a great, exciting game, and will have brought Mullingar on in leaps and bounds.
Mullingar, if they look at the last 30 minutes, the first 30 mightn't have been exactly what they'd like to be at, but the last 30, you know, I mean, they moved it a little bit swifter and whatever. They probably got the rub of the green the way it finished. You know, we did highlight it last day, there's no point going back on that, but, you know, but they didn't panic when they had the ball. They moved it around, and it was like the basketball. They waited and waited until they found that opportunity, and they took it, and that's why they're in the semi-final. You know, so, I mean, the Downs are a real formidable outfit. I mean, realistically, it wouldn't have taken very, very little for the Downs to be defending county champions at the moment, you know, in all honesty. And if you were in the Downs dressing room after, say, the dust settled last year, you'd say, Lord God, I can't wait for the next year's championship to come around to get this straightened out, you know, because it was so heartbreaking. You know, anyone that was ever in county finals, and we all have been there, whether we're played or with clubs or whatever, to lose one is heartbreaking, but to lose it in the manner in which the Downs lost it last year in a penalty-kicking outfit, it's just not thinkable. So they're on a mission, but the last game I seen them, was it against Mullingar, the last round, and they were I said to Dara Egerton on the way off, third gear, and they were comfortable in doing it, you know, and they fell behind, but it didn't matter to them. They kicked three 2-pointers in a row. You know, they just have that ability to kick the 2-pointers, you know, and they have that physicality, and they're that powerful runners. Their movement is good. Their understanding about one another is good, you know. But Mullingar have nothing to lose, as Brendan said. It's a cut at nothing, you know. They're in bonus territory. They're a young team rebuilding again, you know, and they have plenty of quality, though, you know, and they're plenty of size. Like, you know, Dara Daly's a big man. Conor O'Brien, if he's fit to play the whole game, is a big man. You know, Geared, Shane Ormsby, you know, they've plenty of size and power, and they do, to me, we've done them twice at the post, a little bit too much lateral, you know, when it comes past midfield, they're waiting, instead of, you know, hit that fucking ball in and see what happens. You know, and you know, you have Moore is inside all the time waiting for that ball, and he's moving. He must get so frustrated at times because he's nearly exhausted and no ball. You know, he's waiting, moving left. I sometimes just study them, like we'd be with Wardy there, and the ball would be still out on the half forward line, midfield, and he's always buzzing, and he's just getting frustrated. Give me the ball. You know, so it's their attitude about what way they go at them, because you're going to have to go at the Downs. If you don't go at them, they'll punish you at the other end.
Any no chance on Sunday?
We're going to scrape 15 lads now together. And there's a few lads.
You holding back the hurler?
There's a few lads now that have been asked to bring the boots and all. Like, and we'll just, you know, we'll go out and sure we'll have a bit of crack. You know what I mean? Like, you know, sure, you know.
It's good away as anyway.
It's good away anyway, Pat, to go in now, I think.
Absolutely.
No pressure.
Move on, Ray.
There.
Is Davy Gavin, how is he?
I don't think Davy will play now. No, in all seriousness, Davy's carrying an injury, and I don't expect him to play this weekend.
Right, okay.
And look, Shamrocks, So some I said it the last time I was here, some great older players, Dennis Crew and Dara Daly, have really dragged some of the younger lads in it. Shane Orsby had a great last 15 minutes against Gary Castle. And
came of age really, didn't he?
Yeah, and I said Pat's spot on there about that lateral ball. Dean Moore, he's blowing up, so he's running back and forth, not getting in. But look, Shamrocks will come. Shamrocks are, they have a bit of pride in themselves, and we won't be going out lacking for any pride, and we'll hopefully, we'll give it a rattle.
Yeah, I expect that one to be a cracker now as well. Again, as Brendan said it a couple of times, games that have happened in the round robin at this stage count for absolutely nothing, because it's all or nothing now in this weekend, because you win, you have another 2 weeks to look forward to. You lose, well, you can head for Clark's or whatever and drown your sorrows for the next whatever 3 or 4 more down to Canton Casey's or wherever you want to go, but it'll be drowning your sorrows, because that's what's in store for all the teams beaten this weekend. But look, lads, it's a cracking lineup of football games. Starting, as I said, in the Junior 2 Championship, Gary Castle and Thurles Pass on the Saturday at 2 o'clock in the Downs, and then Tuberclare and St. Paul's on the Sunday at 2 o'clock in Ballincarrigy. The Junior 1 semi-finals, St. Joseph's against Mullingar Shamrock Saturday at 3:30 in the Downs, Ballinagoran and St. Lomans on Sunday at 2 o'clock in Rochford Bridge. The quarterfinals or the semi-final of the Intermediate Milltown Pass in Tuberclare Saturday 2 o'clock in TG Cusick Park live on Earview TV, and then on the Sunday you have Milltown and Shandona at 2 o'clock also live on Earview TV again in TG. And the 2 senior semi-finals, the 2 big ones, St. Lomans versus County Champions defender title against Coruscant Kinnegad Saturday at 3:45 in TG Cusick Park, and then on the Sunday the final game of the knockout stage of the semi-finals, the Downs versus Mullingar Shamrock Sunday 3:45. All 4 games on the Saturday, and the 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday, all live on Earview TV. And lads, I expect a huge crowd to be in TG Cusick Park, and hopefully a big crowd tuning in on the television wherever you are in the world. Lads, we're not going to preview any more than that. We will be back to look, I think next Monday night we will be looking at the lineup for the senior final, looking back on all those semi-finals. We will have, as Tom Brown has already said, so if you haven't listened to it, the start of the Hurling podcast, go back and listen to Tom, what he said, what we have in store coming forward. Some great night's entertainment. We'll be coming here with a live audience on the podcast on the Fridays, the Friday nights before Hurling weekend finals and before football weekend finals. Live audience in here with a special guest in it. And then later on in the year, we'll have podcasts with the 99 All-Ireland winning under 21 footballers. We have a night with the Leinster winning minor team of 2000 and the Leinster winning under 21 team of 2000. So some great entertainment, some great memories. We'll try and get them to you from some of the people that were taking part over those games, 5 years ago now and more, 30 years for some of them. I don't know where the time has gone, because I remember them well. But lads, thank the 3 guests on here tonight. I want to thank the girls from the Camogie along with Jason Keane as well. Brendan, welcome back from your travels. Pat, as always, great to listen to you and great to hear your wisdom and your insight into the games. Eddie Casey, KC Sports, delighted to have you, Eddie, and keep the old profile as low as you possibly can, and I'll try and learn from you as well going forward. Wishing all teams the best in the championship, and may the best teams win, and we'll have great county finals then after this weekend. So from myself, Ray Gavin, give us a like, give us a share, subscribe, whatever you do for your podcast, follow us on everything. Tom Brown, you finally got to see him in front of the camera. He's on the desk. Jerry Gavin is on the cameras. As always, we thank the 2 lads. So from myself, we'll see you next week.